Is the unconsciousness only one for all of our lives, or is an unconsciousness for each one life we live?
I think that when we come into a physical body in this world, we tend to forget our past lives, because we have to see if the lesson is really learned. That is, we forget our past lives. And many cultures have theories for why we forget the past lives. Pressing here, or crossing the river of Lethe, the Greek, because they all knew about past lives. Plato wrote about past lives. Many scholars and scientists and philosophers over the years. So why do we forget? And I think it's to see, did we really learn? For example, are we not violent now because we know in our hearts, deep down, that spiritual beings that we are not violent? Or is it because we were violent in the 14th century and we were punished for that, or we had difficult lifetimes after that? But the real answer is within, looking within. Are we non-violent now? Because it's our nature. So that's why we forget. But now more and more people are remembering their past lives, because the world is in more danger now. We're in danger of man-made problems, global warming and wars and pollution and extinction of species, possibly catastrophic things. So it's very important. Now we're allowed to learn about our past lives because we have to catch up spiritually with the technological advances. So I think now so many people are remembering their past lives either in hypnosis and regression, sometimes spontaneously, not through hypnosis at all. When you go to a city for the first time and you know your way around, say Prague or Berlin, and where the old church was, but the church has not been there for 200 years, but you remember, why isn't the church here? And you know where the secret room in the church was. These are documented true stories of patients who remembered past lives by déjà vu, or in dreams.
In dreams. I was thinking about which are the sources of dreams. Do they come from there sometimes?
Sometimes it is a past life. It's not always Freudian. You may have a metaphor, symbol, yes. But sometimes when you dream of yourself in an ancient place, a past time, it's not Freudian, it's not a metaphor. Maybe that's actually a past life fragment emerging into the dream. So many times I hear my patients talking about their dreams, and that's where we go in the regression session, because I know that's the door for them. They're already telling me where to go to help them.
They are more free. I enjoy dreaming a lot, and maybe I have a sort of surrealistic grammar, no? And because they are more free than life.
Yes.
You find the connections in dreams are more free.
Absolutely. We don't have our usual consciousness guarding the door. So the subconscious, the unconscious is right there. The usual barriers when we're waking are gone. So in dreams we can be more creative and answers can come. That's why dream interpretation is so important. But when we're awake, then our left brains, our logic, is getting in the way. So when we start to have a feeling, an intuition, an insight, we sometimes say, no, this can't be. This can't be. So for example, if you're walking down the street and you start to think of a schoolmate, a classmate that you haven't seen since high school or grammar school, for no reason at all, and you dismiss that. Oh, no, I have to pay attention here because maybe there's a store I want to shop at. And then you turn the corner and there that person is. But your intuition was telling you this person is near. In the dream, you know what it is. You can make the connection because your logical mind is not in the way.
Yeah, intuition is called another thing. Intuition in dreams is just, it's more real.
Yes, it's real. But actually intuition in waking is real too. We just don't give it enough credit. It's very important. Many people say to me, there are no coincidences, because coincidences are not accidents. It's the intuition telling you, pay attention, something's happening. So I now pay much more attention to intuition, to instinctive behaviors and thoughts and gut feelings, because before Catherine I didn't, and after Catherine This is one of the changes. Yes.
And can we train that?
Yes, you certainly can train yourself to be more intuitional. You have to start by paying attention. It doesn't have to be difficult. Pay attention to your intuitions. When do you get these feelings? And intuition is not a fear. It's a deep down feeling. It doesn't come with fear or anxiety. It's just a knowing. You know this. And for some reasons it happens in the oddest way. It may not be important, or it may be very important. But so you start thinking of this person, and then they call you. Pay attention to that. When you're standing waiting for an elevator, and there are 6 elevators there, just play a little game, like which one is coming. Yeah, but that's training for the intuition, because you already know. When the phone rings, guess who's calling, before you look in the identification or anything like that. This is all the training. Meditation is another way. I've started doing that, but that's not for everybody. You train yourself to clear your mind, to become mindful. And that just means to watch what's going on inside your mind, without comment, without editing, but that helps you to pay attention to your intuition also. It can be life-saving. Boy, for example, you get an intuition, stop, just before you walk in front of a bus. You should pay attention to that.
And does meditation help to merge these feelings or these knowings, and make the space more clear?
Absolutely.
During my life, I've tried some different techniques of meditation. And is there one better than others, or are all the different shapes of the same way to getting in touch with oneself?
I believe they're all similar. They're different techniques, but you're going to the same place. And that place is awareness. It's mindfulness. Just aware of what's happening when you're not thinking. And this is a very useful technique, whichever technique you use, because that's what you want, the end result. So if you're walking from here to Avenida Florida, there are probably many ways of doing it, but your destination is the same. You can go this way or this way or this way. You can walk, you can take a taxi, whatever. But as long as you wind up in that place, you are where you're supposed to be. Meditation is like that. It's the means to get to a place of peace, inner peace, and mindfulness, awareness, whichever route you want to take. So take what's ever easiest for you. There's no one way. And many different types of meditation teachers. But it's useful because it helps to clear the mind. In India, some people remember their past lives by meditating backwards, backwards, backwards in time, to when they were younger, to when they were a child, to when they were an infant, to when they were in utero, and back into a past life. For those of us from the West, that's too disciplined, too tedious.
We need help.
We need help.
Your help in this case, for example.
I just speed it up. Same result. That's like walking to Mar del Plata. I prefer the airplane, so we can get there quickly.
And do cells have any kind of consciousness or memory? Are cells other parts of this kind of different shapes we can use?
Cells of our body,
yes,
I think, do have consciousness in the sense that there may be a cellular memory. It doesn't explain past lives completely, but we know from work with transplants, for example, that feelings and other sensitivities can be transmitted. We know from certain work with worms that memories can be transmitted through cellular processes, transplanting. For example, in heart transplants, you see sometimes the recipient taking on some of the characteristics of the donor. For example, someone who has never drunk beer, doesn't like beer, then has a transplant and suddenly develops a taste for beer. And the donor loved beer. That kind of thing you see a lot of, and you know that this is a form of cellular transfer of some sort of sensitivity or memory. But with past lives it's more complicated, because so many times people who have died as children or young, not having passed on any genetic material, they didn't have any children. but they remember the lifetime as a child. So if you remember a lifetime, for example, and I'm making this up, I'm not a psychic telling it, where you died when you were 5 years old in Russia in the 18th century. You didn't have any children, you were only 5 years old. But now you remember in detail that life, what happened, the facts about Russia and your parents and things like that. That's not genetic. You don't have a genetic link to that little boy a couple of centuries ago in Russia. So we know that it's more than genetic transmission.
And do we carry illness and sickness from one life to another one? Or, I mean, when we have when we are ill, does that come from other lives that we have to pass through them?
Sometimes. It's a very interesting question. I'm actually thinking about that too, because certainly for psychological problems, yes. I've seen that a lot. Someone is thrown off a castle wall in the 15th century, and now they have a fear of heights. Catherine drowned, and she has a fear of gagging or choking. And she also wound up having a fear of water that I didn't even know about. So we bring those symptoms or illnesses, anxieties, depression, with us. Vulnerabilities. But then I was thinking, well, what about physical diseases like cancer or something like that? I know we bring pain with us. Absolutely. But, for example, I was seeing a radiologist, a doctor in my hospital, who had terrible back pain for years. And he went to orthopedic surgeons and chiropractic physicians and others with no relief. And he had to take medicine because the pain was severe, but he did not like taking the medicine because it made him tired and fuzzy. You know, his mind wasn't sharp. When we did a regression, he found himself as a soldier, one soldier, in a battlefield of thousands in the Middle Ages, and he was speared in the back. That's how he died in that life. And when he remembered that, his back pain disappeared. It doesn't prove the lifetime, but the pain disappeared. It changed his life completely. So
and can we heal illness in that way?
Yes,
also?
absolutely.
Concrete illness.
Concretely. And then I was thinking about cancers, and that maybe we bring a vulnerability, or substance abuse. You know, did you use alcohol in England in the 14th century to solve your problems and other times, and are you bringing that pattern forward into this life? Yes, people do that too. Not so much the illness as the vulnerability to the illness. And I find, yes, this technique does help a great deal with physical illnesses as well. All kinds. Asthma, and you found that you died in a fire in whenever, and the smoke inhalation, and that's why the breathing problems. Not all cases of asthma, but some. And I remember a patient I had from England whose asthma got much better when we found this cause in a fire several centuries ago in a past life. So I do think physical illnesses are also brought over, or the vulnerability, or the pattern. And through awareness, through understanding, we can solve those problems. We can heal those symptoms. There's also, boy, the understanding about death, that it's not what we think it is, that we're actually immortal because we're souls, spiritual beings. There's a beautiful quote from a Christian mystic whose name is Teilhard de Chardin. In English, it goes like this, because it has a nuance in it. He said, "We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience." I love that quote.
That's great.
Because it captures the essence of our existence.
We go on in a minute. Thank you, Brian.
Good.
Ya volvemos con el Dr. Brian Weiss. Well, we talked about illness, and we talked about death. And I think that death is one of the main big fears of our culture, of ourselves. Why are we so scared about death? if there's no necessary of being
Yes.
like that, no?
But
There's no need. I'm sorry.
there really is no need, but we are scared because it's the unknown. It's been, ever since humans have developed consciousness, the ability to think and self-perception, they've been curious about what happens after we die. This is how religions evolve. This is theories of death and dying. It's the great unknown, because it's very difficult to prove it, very difficult to say it's this or it's not. So I think when I came upon this, not just the concept of reincarnation, the concept is ancient. People have believed in reincarnation for thousands and thousands of years. Most of the world now believes in reincarnation, counting the Eastern religions and the people of the East, India, China, Japan, all these countries. But even in South America, statistics show that about 50% of people in Latin America believe in reincarnation. In the United States, which lags behind, about 30%. And in Europe, sort of in the middle. But most of the world does. And so why do we forget when we know this? And I think one answer is it's been intellectual. It's been like, oh, you're taught this as a child, but what about the evidence? We're taught so much when we're 2 years old and 3 and 4 and 5. We're taught in our cultures and in our religions, and we just accept that, undigested. And then when we get older, it's become a belief system, but we don't really know. And here, this is why I do the workshops like in Mar del Plata or Buenos Aires, so people can experience for themselves what death is.
And maybe we relate death with pain, because we have to leave someone go to other place, and we suffer through illness.
Yes.
And there's a period in which we feel the pain.
Absolutely, we do. This is the hard place, as we talked about. This is the place where we have the pain. I find in doing my research that dead people don't suffer. They're fine on the other side. I'm always getting that information. I'm fine. I love you. Take care of yourself. Don't be sad for me because I'm fine. There's no pain over there. There's awareness. They can contact us if they need to. Here.
And where is there?
There is not a geographical place.
No, yeah,
it's
I know.
Just another dimension, a higher vibration. It's the other side, heaven, cielo, different dimensions. So when I talk about that, I talk about a different vibration. One analogy that I use to think of ourselves is complicated, but it's, for me, it helped me understand, is that here we are as people in physical bodies. We have pain, we have physical bodies. But our spirit, where do you go when you die? Well, maybe it's a higher vibration, but we're still us. It's our souls vibrating at a higher level. And maybe it's higher than that, but we don't necessarily lose our consciousness or our nature. So what I thought about was ice cubes. Sounds strange. Ice cubes,
Yes.
that from their freezer.
Yes.
Now we know what ice cubes, if ice cubes could think, they would think, I'm separate, I'm distinct. I have hard edges, right? I'm an ice cube, ice.
Very concrete.
See, yellow, I put in, and I'm concrete, I'm separate from other ice cubes. I am my own boundaries. But if you heat the ice cubes, they become water, and they're connected, all one thing. Forever, spirit and water have been connected. Water is a metaphor for spirit. And what happens if you keep heating the water? It disappears.
Air, it becomes
steam. It's air. It's invisible. But it's still there. It's vibrating very rapidly now. We know that because we can take steam and condense it. It becomes water again. Put it in the freezer, and it's ice again.
It's a new life.
A new life.
A new life.
But it's never lost the nature. I think we are like that. We're like the ice cubes in the physical bodies. When we die, we become the water. Concepts of God and beyond that, the steam, the invisible, the unknown. But then new life, coming back as an ice cube. So it explains how we can change our vibration, change our nature, and yet still be the same.
It's incredible. When I was waiting here in front of this window an hour ago, I was looking through this landscape, and I was thinking about how concrete is this world. You can see here ships and trains and cars downstairs. And then there's the water.
Yes.
And then there's the open sky and that blue sky.
Yes.
And the clouds. And I was thinking all about that just to ask you about these two levels between concrete world there, down, and this other thing that we have to deal with both of them. And it's very hard to do that.
It is.
But it's our challenge, no?
Absolutely, because they're connected. The worlds are connected. There's contact all the time between the worlds. And I've studied mediums, people who can bring messages from the other side, because this is part of being a psychiatrist. I need to understand in my structure, how do people do this? How does the mind connect and get this information? And because I've had this experience myself of people, mediums didn't even know I had a child that died, or my father, and now they're giving information, much like Catherine, but they didn't even know me. And they talk about these things. And so I wonder, how do they do this? So this is a connection to the other side. People in hypnosis, after death, can do this, death in a past life.
And that's the voice of the masters.
It may be, yes. I think they're spiritual guides, masters, angels, whatever word you want to use. So often we as humans get distracted by a word, and we forget. So people say to me sometimes, boy, they'll say, well, what are masters? What are masters? And I'll say, well, they're spiritual wisdom, intelligence, energy that don't need bodies on the other side. So I don't understand that. I said, think of them as angels. Oh, I know that.
I know that.
Yes. Just a word.
Just to end, which is the message they have for us?
Love. It's always the same message. Only love is real. Love each other. Be compassionate. Don't do these things. Don't hate. Don't do these negative things. It's all about love. That's the energy. That's why we're here. That's the big lesson. That's the only lesson. Love, love, love. And that keeps coming through. And that's what we have to master. Love.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Estuvimos con el doctor Brian Weiss. Y lo último que dijo, ustedes lo han oído, es amor. Que se desparrame sobre todos nosotros.